This is by no means comprehensive. I just wanted to give you an idea of where some of these facilities are, and kind of where they're, how they're structured. There's an entire Edwards base and related facilities on the left here, Edwards Air Force Base in the high desert of California. And you have these various, Haystack Butte is a specific place that has an underground facility underneath that, China Lakes. George Norton has been decommissioned, Tabletop Mountain, and Blackjack Control. Interesting, Blackjack Control is at Edwards. The top secret document that's the National Reconnaissance Office, which is the office that runs all the super secret spy satellites, mentions Blackjack operation, but Blackjack Control, and that's out of Nellis, so-called Area 51, although it's not really called Area 51. But Blackjack Control is actually at the Edwards facility. Now, what you need to know is that you can go into an underground connector at Edwards, and I know people who have done this in their jobs, connect to an underground tunneling system and surface at Nellis. All right? So Bing. Bechtel Corporation, I've mentioned, there's a nuclear-powered tunneling device that bores through solid bedrock and glassifies it, and then they put these high-speed electromagnetic transport systems in, so people can go underneath the surface of the Earth at one point and appear at another point in the continental United States. It was sort of honeycombed with a number of these tunnels and underground facilities. One thing to keep in mind, nothing that is mission critical is on the surface of the Earth. It is either underground or in space. If it's above a nuclear blast zone, surface of the Earth, or an asteroid hit level of the surface of the Earth, it is not critical. Or if it's critical, it's got a mirror facility underground. That's what the COG is, continuity of government. You know what that is? COG? No. If a nuclear weapon went off and took out the whole government in Washington, there's a continuously running system. It used to be in Mount Weather, and it's near there now. And actually on 9/11, Senator John Warner, who's on this committee of the Majority Intelligence Committee, was taken by intelligence community agents and taken into an underground connector under the Capitol and whisked out to Mount Weather on an underground system on 9/11 because he was a critical asset. I mean, the rest of the senators weren't, but a couple were the ones who were on the committee. And then you have aerospace facilities that are at Edwards. You have the Northrop's Ant Hill, Teton Ranch, McDonnell Douglas Llano plant, Lockheed Martin Hellendale plant, Phillips Lab. These are all facilities where ARVs, so-called alien reproduction vehicle, man-made flying saucers and triangles are made. You all have heard of the Nellis complex. It's called Area 51, but it's actually areas S4, S12. Pahut Mesa and Area 19 are key. Pahut Mesa is a mesa, and underneath is where the state-of-the-art research lab is studying extraterrestrial materials are located, and Groom Lake, the test range out on that Area 51 site. It's really called the Nevada Test Range. In New Mexico, you have Los Alamos National Laboratories. They have a compartmented operation that deals with this, but more importantly, a member of my team for many years who's a senior engineer at Los Alamos, and he was in the locker room, and he was hearing some men talk about the fact they had just come back out of Dulce through the underground connector. So Los Alamos has an underground connector system to the Four Corners area. Now, a lot of people have gone there, like UFO hunters, and they go, there's nothing there on the ground. Well, no, there isn't. There's no egress, there's no access, there's no regress. It's all through underground elsewhere. But it's in that area. And that's where a lot of the PLFs are made, program life forms, the so-called aliens, the ones that are running around. It's where we grow them, is out there. Which is why they were getting a lot of the raw materials from all the cattle they were mutilating in northern New Mexico. You know this story? Oh, well, we could go on for days. But anyway, so that's the Los Alamos and Dulce complexes. You have Kirkland Air Force Base, of course, has had a historic connection, but Sandia National Lab specifically has studied this issue. And the Phillips Lab facility, Manzano Mountain Weapons Storage Facilities underground, Coyote Canyon test site, and then of course, White Sands is actually a separate New Mexico facility. White Sands is its own facility, quite far away from Kirkland. That was graphic was a little mistake in there. Go to the next slide, and I'll show you some more. Is this interesting to spy on all these? In Arizona, I've had some people, a couple people, a recent man just contacted us who had worked at that facility. Years ago, a gentleman who had been in the underground facility there had worked in the compartmented operation where there were 9 separate ET spacecraft that over the years had been down, taken there, and then they had an underground morgue for all the ET bodies, all the ETs that we had, of course, killed, and were in storage there. So that Fort Huachuca is actually also an NSA facility in a Fort Huachuca, Arizona. It's near Tombstone, ironically. All these dead ETs and craft there. It's also Army Intelligence Headquarters. It's at Fort Huachuca, way out in the desert. And there are others, of course, out in this Cheyenne Mountain. The Colorado Deep Space Network here in Colorado has a significant research. And there's an Air Force base connected underground out further east. I'm blocking on the name. Yeah, Schroeder. That is very connected to this program. You have the Lawrence Livermore Labs in California, Pine Gap facility in Australia. They're both Magic and Australian, but it's really run by U.S. I was at a briefing with 120 world leaders on an island in the Great Barrier Reef about 5 years ago, and this Minister of Defense for Australia was there, and he was very curious because the mistake people make is that, oh, he's the Minister of Defense of Australia, he'd know everything going on in his backyard. And no, he doesn't, because these are unacknowledged special access projects that he was not read into. So it was a very interesting series of conversations. And by the way, it's very disturbing. I mean, if you're the Minister of Defense or the President or Prime Minister or CIA Director, and you find out that there's this enormous and most important technological and strategic activity in the history of the human race going on that you're not read into, you're pissed off, but you're scared. It's frightening, and it is frightening. Now, the Redstone Arsenal, there's a facility there in Alabama associated with the transdimensional research. I've been in one of the labs there, a SCIF, a Secure Communication Information Facility, SCIF. And there are amazing technologies that are being developed there, as well as associated with the Marshall Space Flight Center. The gentleman who's recently surfaced from the Technology Management Office in the sub-basement of the Pentagon said that he went down the Marshall Space Flight Center in this area and was read into the state-of-the-art killer satellite systems that had been put into space that could, and he used the word, obliterate anything in space. And it's very worrisome. Of course, it violates all kinds of treaties, but these are illegal, unacknowledged special access projects. They don't care what the law is. And then you have the Utah complex, not far from Salt Lake City. It's accessible only by air. Dugway Proving Grounds outside Provo has also classified airspace, and underneath Dugway is, I think, probably the most state-of-the-art facility, more so than so-called Area 51 or Edwards, which are older facilities. It also happens to be where the new NSA data center was built. You see this big gleaming multi-$100 million building above ground, but there's a lot beneath ground.